landmark called the Gum Wall.
The gum wall?
I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like, a wall that you stick your gum on, and every 6 months or so they come and power wash the new layers off so that they don't destroy the building with the excess weight.
Oh, man. Okay. Interesting.
But anyway, I'm like literally right up, like you probably can't see on my kind of crummy camera, but there's the gum. There's the gum. And so there's this little, I am locked outside the gates of Eden right now. So there's a garden and I don't quite have access to it.
Okay. Pike Place is your workplace, right?
I mean, it's one of them. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The gum wall. Yeah. I'll definitely keep an eye on that if I ever go to Seattle.
The gum wall itself, like, because of what I do, a lot of people like assume I know where things are, so they ask me directions, and I'm always like, why do you want to see that? I don't understand.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely something that's memorable. It kind of reminds me of the graffiti wall in Cambridge, where people can just go and tag it if they want. And I guess it's good to have a space set aside for that. But I actually like street art quite a bit, and I know some people, well, some of my family members in Cambridge were like, oh, you should go and see this thing. You like street art? It's like, no, it's not really street art. It's just a place where people go in and tag the wall there. So, yeah, anyone's welcome to jump in. I've got the link in the chat, and it's also in Bridges of Meaning. So,
it doesn't count if you have permission. That defeats the whole purpose.
Well, Zeke asked, do I need to hop on? And then Tayo was like, hey, I'll hop on as Zeke does. So, yeah.
Did you?
Hi, Zeke.
You dropped the link.
Yeah. Yep. It's there. Yeah. So no, I was legit worried that no one might be watching, but well, actually, the thing is, I don't stream at my house, so it'd be one thing if I was like in my bedroom and no one else came on and be whatever. I just get off after like 15 minutes, but I don't want to take the time to drive to my office and get everything together and then have it be a dud. So, yeah, I know Eamon had asked about, like where the link was. So, which I guess, well, I'll out him. So, Mark F. had, after he said that, he had posted a reply link to the Bridges of Meaning Discord. So I couldn't help but think, like, at first I thought, like, oh, that's kind of funny, but that's a pretty cruel joke. But I guess it was a mistake at Mark's behalf, because it's like that's kind of out of characteristic for Mark. He's usually not a jackass like that. But yep. So hi, Tayo. How are you doing?
Hello. And a special greetings to Zeke.
Yeah, so it's the start of the real weekend for you, because, like I say, it's the start of the weekend for me, but it's 1:00 here, so.
Yeah. Are you the somewhere where it's 5:00, Teo?
It's 6:00, so yeah, pretty much is the start of the weekend. The pubs are very full. It's a sunny day here in Manchester, so busy pubs.
So is pub culture alive in the UK or not really?
Oh, very much so.
Well, I mean, I don't know that much about the UK. I just know the Edgar Wright and I'm blanking on the redhead's name.
Yeah, Simon Pegg.
Simon Pegg. Their movie, The End of the World, which was about pubs being taken over and corporatized.
Yep.
Shout out Spoons.
Zeke knows. There you go.
Well, I think of like a UK pub, and like people go in there, they just want a Guinness, right? Pretty much, like they're not looking for like specific craft beers, or maybe a Sam Smith. I don't know, possibly a Belhaven.
Nah, we're just you're just there for the pint. Whatever the pub you're at has got, that's what you're drinking.
Okay, fair enough. Wait,
All right, I have a.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I've got an international traveler question for you guys. I'm going to Canada for the first time in forever. What do I need to do to USA up my wardrobe to make it clear where I'm from and where my loyalties lie?
Huh.
Do I need to like bring a cowboy hat or?
You could bring something that says America. That's something that Canadians and Mexicans always really dislike. Is like the idea when people refer to the U.S. as America. So that would do it. There's got to be a shirt that says something about the 51st state. I might
That's
veer
what I
away
was
from that
thinking as
one.
well, Sam.
That would lead. No. We don't want them.
Well, there you go. That's what the shirt says. We don't want you as the 51st state.
I guess that's funny.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Ethan, can I just say, big fan of yours now. I saw your conversation with Grim Grizz because Grim Grizz posted a tweet saying that caught my attention, and it was a great conversation. So,
you're in a meeting. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So people stepped into my office. I wasn't expecting that.
Right. So how are the spreadsheets doing, Sam? Corporate projections and whatnots.
No, we are not open right now. So yeah, I was a little surprised to see them actually, but yeah, I have been here streaming a few times at night, and the cleaners have come in, and actually a few times there's a place next to us that is like a children's education center for. I don't know if it's a mosque technically or just like a prayer center. I don't really know the difference between the two, but yeah, sometimes during Ramadan there were kids like making noise like right next to my office at like 10 o'clock at night. But, well, let's see. I guess we should try to be somewhat organized here, maybe. So, do we want to do a real quick estuary protocol? Yay or nay? Oh, Jacob! It's like Jacob's like, that's not my thing. What have you brought me into, Sam?
Estuary.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, I mean we could go around like I don't know, real quickly. Everyone could. I mean, we do have 6 people here now, so maybe just if you want to introduce yourself, go ahead. But I assume anyone watching probably knows who everyone is, and then just what's been on your mind, personally, contextually, or intellectually. So, and it should take about maybe 2 minutes, I think. But you want to start, Matt? You're the one next to me here in the list.
Let's see here. Okay. My name is Matt. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to me, and also not a lot to me. I make balloon animals. I'm a professional busker, party clown, party entertainer, I guess, which gives me a lot of free time at weird times of the day. The big thing that's been on my mind I just need to figure out a way to get the ball rolling. Like I had it like locked down like a minute ago, and then I got confused. Swing back around to me for a pitch. Give me 1 second to kind of sort my head out.
Oh, that's fine. Have you always been in the Northwest, or did you transplant?
I transplanted here about 15 years ago, so right after I graduated from undergrad.
Okay, that's cool. And then I think what everyone really wants to know, were you born a clown or did you become one?
I'm not really sure. There's this weird question of like how the providence of God works out in an individual life, and it's one of those things like the more you like achieve you like start to achieve what appears to be your telos, the more you start to see like how deep the seeds are in your life. So I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if some people said they thought I was born an accountant, but all right. I don't know if Zeke's with us now or not. His cam's off. But why don't you go ahead, Jacob, next?
I am. My internet's a little.
Oh, never mind. Zeke's here. I guess just what's been on your mind,
I'll turn it on.
personally, contextually, or intellectually, if
Too
that
much has
helps.
gone on my mind currently. I'm not an intellectual. What do you think I am? What do you think this is, Sam? I'm just here for the vibes.
You just play
Nah,
one
if you don't know
online.
who I am, I'm Zeke from upstate. Oh yeah, from the upstate South Carolina. It's been a decent year so far, I guess. Me and Mark F and Sam are doing a little Cost of Discipleship by Bonhoeffer reading on his channel, so make sure to watch. I'm always here to plug. Yeah, I mean, I got a Substack now because I have to be a modern man. So shout out Ethan and other people for forcing me to write things in a longer format. Just talking like urbanism and stuff like that from a more, I guess, TLC or kind of point of view. So that's what I've been doing recently.
Okay. Now you're organizing an event in the fall, right?
Okay, I'm not organizing the event. I am currently the beautiful face of Southeast January.
Oh, I think we lost him a little bit there.
17th, 18th in beautiful Lake Junaluska, North Carolina, which is near Asheville, North Carolina. Everyone should come through. I probably died.
Oh man, right at the important moment, but we'll come back to that though. Jacob.
Hi, I'm Jacob. I am not an alcoholic, but I wish I were.
Make you want to be one?
I live.
That story stuff.
I live in Los Angeles, and so it's funny you mentioned the whole clown thing, and I've just been thinking a lot about the holy fool, the jester thing, especially because, so for people who don't know me, I come from a Hasidic community that's the Rebbe, the Grand Rabbi, died about 30 years ago, and his jesters have been dying slowly. One of whom died yesterday, and I've just been thinking a lot about that, and it was funny that you mentioned it. So, yeah, that's what I've been thinking about.
Yeah. Ethan?
I'm Ethan. I'm a writer. Matt, are you by the gum wall right now?
Yeah, it's right there.
I knew it. That is the wildest wall.
So gross, and I wear sandals, so it's all
I want to talk about what Jacob wants to talk about. I had a friend recently. I was on the phone with him, and he was talking about how he's got maybe a 2-year-old child, and he made the comment like, I've been a fool my whole life, and I got to be something other than a fool, and I'm just trying to figure out like, what am I going to grow into? What am I going to become? So I guess I'm curious. What does a jester become? What's the road for a jester?
Yeah. Tayo, did you want to jump in here? Or I don't know if you're maybe doing other things or.
Yeah, I thought this was a just chatting, not a online Friday estuary. I came in mainly to be on the same stream as Zeke for the first time ever, so I can say to him, sorry about PSG, but I'm not really that sorry. I've been consuming AFTV, Arsenal Fan TV content, just drinking in the tears of my rivals. So that's what I came on for. But I also watched twice Ethan's conversation with Grim Grizz, um, and I think Tunji and Chris Howard also spoke about it on the Chris Howard stream this morning. And I think Tunji felt similarly to what I felt, which was Grizz was the guy in TLC that is the Remember and Buddy guy, and now he's become the Resistance is Futile guy against AI, and he's got an AI co-host. And is that something that should be worrying, or should we just allow Grim Grace to keep playing with the AI? That's what I've got in my mind.
If you don't mind, Sam, my screen should be available to you. This is a 1-minute video. I wanted to share with people. Don't worry, they won't.
Okay, this is you then. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's just 1 minute.
Okay, go for it.
When I went to see the Rebbe goes like this to me. I look at him, asks me to whistle, and I go, "Psst," little whistle, and he says, "Ah," like this.
Meir Abisera became the designated hitter, so to speak. He was the whistler.
It was extraordinary. The whistling changed 770 completely.
בשעה סדו העניין של שמחה ומסתו ההופן אז מצר ותניגל wird in ein Mitzwe von Yitzre Hora was Yitzre Tokfe is a Mitzwe zu pfeifen auf a Sofe auf a Flexweke auf a 100-Weke als sie da am Natzer und sie da Jiden was durch a Pfeif stellt man a Mieder Mina Kotze und a Kotze.
Yeah. So Rabbi Abisera died a while ago, and there was a different guy. He was known as Charlie Buttons, who used to show up at all the weddings and bar mitzvahs and circumcisions and make balloons for people. So Charlie Buttons died yesterday.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's it's always nice to see communities of people where there's joy.
Yeah, I mean, I just keep on thinking about Pajot and there's a lot talking about folly and holy folly and obviously everything with our crazy world and craziness. And I mean, even the pageantry with the Pope, you need a pageantry that's able to withstand a jester, that's able to integrate a jester. And without the pageantry, you can't have the jesting, and you can't have the jesting, the jolly, without the pageantry. And it just feels like they're so divorced these days.
I think without the pageantry, the jester is left with attacking the much more serious things. It's almost, the pageantry almost becomes this sort of smoke shield of elaborate, beautiful things that we do, but it's not he's not attacking the sacred because he's got so many other targets that are much aesthetically richer.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think one way to think about or define the sacred is that which we do not joke about.
Or maybe that which joking about has a cost, right? So I know one thing that I've seen from time to time is this idea of what words will get you basically disassociated from society throughout time. And a lot of the words from the medieval ages were kind of goofy words in a way, as we think of them as in modern terms, like gadzooks was one. But yeah, the idea though that it was the things that were the boundaries were sacred things. And that's probably, we still have sacred things, but they're not necessarily religious things that get people kicked out of society or blackmailed or not blackmailed, blackballed.
Well, I won't say the name of Kanye West's latest song, but he basically took all of the words that you're not allowed to say, to the point that I was discussing it with someone and he put N word and then he wrote out the other part, the 88 part. And like, I said to him, well, he's not Jewish. I'm like, well, you could say the tetragram, right? And I actually typed it out. But you can't write the N word, right?
Yeah, so I mean, Ye is definitely a fool. Whether he's holy or not, I don't know. That's above my pay grade to say. Well, no, it's just I was thinking about this, and for some reason it was on my mind today. I can't remember why exactly, but the connection between artistry and the divine, or maybe between the artist and the pastor, or the artist and the minister, and that's actually why it was, because Arcade Fire had put out a new album, and I know some fans were disappointed because their lead singer had what sounded like kind of a clingy and gross relationship with the fan, and I don't know, stuff like that. I mean, there was nothing illegal, it was definitely ethically questionable, but it doesn't really, to my mind, affect whether or not I listen to their music. But a lot of people do expect the artist to be a moral exemplar, and I mean, I think that's a human instinct that goes all the way back, at least to the Greeks. I mean, probably further than that. Let's see. Can I? Sorry. Does someone? Do you mind if I kick you off, Dio? I've got someone waiting here.
You have a 6-person limit, right?
Yeah. I'm cheap. Oh wait. Okay. All right. Hi, Emma. Glad to see you around here. So, yeah, Emma, for people who are not real familiar with the channel, she's a regular, though not as much recently, on Father Eric's live stream, and she was Mark and I's compatriot in reading Introduction to Christianity by Ratzinger. So,
yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah, past 2 months been a little busy, not so much on the internet.
Yeah, she's a fellow Great Lakes person, so I'm sure she's very happy to be outside and enjoying the summer, spring after what was a pretty
it is lovely
cold winter. So, yeah.
You got chickens?
What?
Those chickens behind you? Birds walking around? Am I seeing things?
No,
I'm seeing things. Go.
I don't have chickens. I don't think I'm allowed to have chickens. I'm too city.
Do you have land or not? I know you have a fairly new house. And
I mean, I have this much land.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a backyard. I'm going to start a next year.
Yeah. I was going to say, in my mind, you're city, but you're kind of like Ann Arbor City. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you had chickens.
That is the calmest baby in the world.
Yeah. I do also have a baby.
I was like, what, is that a doll or is that the baby?
That's the baby.
That's beautiful. So, yeah. I mean, I'll keep, your privacy if you want, but do you want to introduce the baby, or if you don't, that's okay.
I mean, I introduced him on Jacob's stream earlier. This is CJ. We'll keep it to just initials.
Okay.
He looks just like Winston Churchill.
All babies do.
Oh, gosh.
He actually looks quite a bit like his dad.
My sister had this obsession of trying to say that this one baby in particular looked like Russell Crowe for some reason. And that was when Russell Crowe was skinny, too. It wasn't like bare Russell Crowe. Yeah.
Master and Commander Russell Crowe?
Yeah. Yeah, that's about when the kid would have been born because he's in college now. So, yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. All babies look alike to me, and I think my wife, who works in labor and delivery, would agree that most babies look pretty much alike.
New babies do all look the same, except for this guy, who looked like a TV newborn rather than a real newborn.
Oh, yeah. Well, a peaceful child is a blessing. So, yeah.
Well, he was just very large, and like most babies look like wrinkly little monkey aliens, and he actually looked like a baby because he was so big.
Huh. Yeah. So, any thing really sticking out to you in the corner this week, or maybe I should say the Peterson Sphere. So I might have a rebellion. I think.
I don't know. New Pope. I'm excited about that. We'll see how it goes.
Oh yeah, you're pretty close to the Pope, the new Pope's homeland, or at least the area where he was born.
Yeah.
So,
I know. I can start saying I'm from Illinois and actually having something to be proud of.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm surprised nobody's mentioned he's the first Pope who's a descendant of African American slaves.
That is interesting.
I mean, yeah, that tracks. That's cool.
Yeah, I figured like it would. I mean, I think the woke don't want to don't want to say anything because it's the Pope, but like also the conservatives don't want to say anything because it sounds woke. I don't know.
Well, we were pointing that out on Discord yesterday.
I mean, if you're Catholic, I mean, the Pope is your pastor in a real sense. And even though you might not like the individual, you still kind of want to respect the office. Or at least I get that impression. Yeah.
Today's not the day for me to watch ads on the internet. Anyway.
Yeah, enjoy the honeymoon phase with the new Pope. I'm sure he'll do some things that'll upset people sooner rather than later. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. But.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say, Andrew? Or I don't know if you. No, Jacob. Is Andrew just always eating like 24/7, or does he just have like a snack ready to go for when he gets on a live?
No, the funny thing is he's been trying to gain weight, but he eats almost nothing. Like the only time he apparently eats is on stream, which is a very strange dynamic.
Yeah, it's because like I don't want to waste time, you know. So like, if I gotta eat, I'm gonna eat with friends.
Well, I mean, when I lived by myself, I would like the only time when I would consistently be watching TV was when I'd be eating something.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, so I don't see it as that different necessarily. So
yeah, exactly.
I guess we're Andrew's entertainment.
I gotta deal with this curse, you know. I put the food in me, the food comes out of me. Why won't it stay in me? You know, it's like
I have to say there is something really like psychologically important about our eating habits that we don't pay enough attention to. And I think we literally hate eating alone. I know I hate eating alone. Like the idea of eating alone is actually kind of frightening.
No, it's bad. I mean, animals do it too, right? Like, my cat would often prefer me to be in the kitchen when she's eating. She doesn't want to be like by herself eating, because I think both because she wants the companionship and she feels kind of vulnerable.
Yeah, my dog will have a bowl of food. It'll be full, and it'll just sit there. And then the moment my wife comes home from work in the morning, because she works overnights, as soon as we're both there, she'll go and eat. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm afraid of eating alone, but I do have a bad habit of not eating when I'm working because I don't have a set lunch hour, and I don't know, I don't get a lot of enjoyment out of eating food by myself, and it's just like another task I have to do.
Can I ask what the story of Andrew T is?
What do you mean what the story is? Like my life story? Or?
Well, no, I don't want your whole life story. That sounds long. I mean, you and Jacob are friends. I see you on Jacob's channel. I first interacted you the first time I ever interacted with TLC. I interacted with you. Something
Really?
about a red face. Yeah. Something about a red face. When I first met you, I thought you like worked in Paul's church. That was like just my guess of your attachment. That seems to not be true. And then the last time I saw you, you came on to Paul Vanderklay's stream, and it seemed to immediately frustrate Paul, which made me laugh. And you're always eating, and so I cannot figure you out, and I need to figure you out. So you got to give me some threads to pull on.
Dude, I'm a simple guy. What you see is what you get, or what you get is what you see, or something like that. You know, like. Hey, I'm friends with Jacob. He's a cool guy, and we're close to each other, you know. So.
Hold on, who said we're friends and who said we're close?
I said we're friends, and I said we're close.
I mean, geographically, you're pretty close, aren't you?
Yeah.
I barely know this guy. I'm joking.
How about you, Ethan? What's your life story?
Yeah, we haven't heard enough of it in the past month, Ethan.
Yeah, I'm good. I'll chill here.
No. How's Alaska been? Have you gotten out and like seen
I saw a
some
moose
moose
this
or
morning.
bear?
I saw a moose.
Oh.
Jane and I and the dog went on a run this morning, and Jane and the dog are out ahead of me, and they like turn fast and like bolt. I'm like, oh, there's an animal. So of course I kept running to where they bolted, and there was just like a lovely mama moose munching on some like a tree branch, and I just kind of waved and said hello, and then we went our separate ways. So that was cool to see like the first large quadruped in the wild.
Yeah, that's excellent. I've only seen moose a few times, even though I lived in Yellowstone for a while and in a ski resort town too. So I did find a moose antler once on a hike. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I found deer antlers before.
Yeah.
One time I saw like a flock of meese out in, Indiana. And I think that was the first time that, I saw like a group of animals in the wild. It was like a revelation,
Our town is infested with geese.
People like to bang on geese because, well, they're flat-footed, so they hang out on land. And then they also tend to be in places where people are. So like they're in the middle of roads, or if there's a little pond in like a subdivision. Also, they're kind of territorial. But if you ever see them fly over water, it's quite beautiful, I think. There's a island in the Detroit River which I like to go and hike with my dog, and there's almost always geese you see flying there. But yeah. So, what were your big takeaways, Ethan, from your conversation with Grim? I know that was one of the big corner things this week. I know it caught my attention for sure.
My takeaway, the thing that like surfaced personally, I guess, was because I had talked to Ross Bird the day before, and across both conversations for me, there was this theme of like the family as the linchpin of society. And also like, I shouldn't say we, I don't know, like from where I'm sitting, it feels like civilization does not view the family as a linchpin of society anymore. Or at least I haven't been thinking that way. And now I'm going like, no, I think I might need to restructure my life and what that looks like to make family the linchpin of my society. Or whatever word you want to put in my little, wherever I end up and buy a house. And then between me and Grim, I just thought it was interesting because I felt like Grim was allowing me into his brain willingly. And that was just what it felt like to talk to Grim for 2 hours, where I was expecting to have to like, I don't know, try tricks to like dodge and weave into his brain. And I felt like he was like, come on in, ask anything. So that was, I don't know, that felt special to me in terms of like building a relationship with a human across the internet.
Yeah, no, it was an excellent conversation. I guess if I ever like had a conversation with Grim like that, I'd maybe be curious to ask him what books or what authors influence him besides Stephen King, because it seems like he's getting corner adjacent, but not exactly the same kinds of inputs that a lot of people are. And I feel like he's reading more science fiction and maybe like horror and things like that. Probably half joking
around here.
Yeah. Well, you know, I guess it might be a bit of a tangent, but yeah, Mark had recommended Paradise Lost. He said that we should do that for our next reading if we do one after Cost of Discipleship. And I was thinking, like, oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
You know, I read it last summer. I was very proud of myself for making it through it. I could go through it again.
Yeah.
We used to have a book club on my channel, and it just died.
I'd want to start with C.S. Lewis's preface to Paradise Lost, but it's not that long.
Of course. God forbid we read anything that's not through the filter of C.S. Lewis.
But this is what he's actually really good
Sorry.
at. Like he was.
This is a rant I go on all the time. Read. Sorry, this is not directed at you. Just everybody else in my life. Read another book. Somebody else, get another voice in your head.
His Christian stuff gets old, but
And
C.S. Lewis literary is completely different from C.S. Lewis, like cultural critic or Christianity writer. Like this was his actual job.
I know. Yeah, but at the same time, like it's people feel like they have to go through his entire back catalog before they're capable of thinking their own thoughts.
Yeah. No, I think
not you specifically, but other people that I know.
I think the David Brooks line was that when he converted to Christianity, he received 250 different books from people, and only 200 of them were mere Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, do you read a lot of poetry, Emma, or poetry regularly?
Not poetry in particular, although I guess I've taught the Iliad like 10 times, so not quite, but there's that. I do like reading a lot of fiction though, and I just feel like there's a certain atmosphere around here that I've noticed where people do just a lot of nonfiction and don't really read a lot of fiction, and it leaves you unbalanced as a person.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Like when I was in my 20s, I basically never read fiction of almost any kind. And I do think it does put you in touch with different parts of yourself to read more poetry and fiction.
And you're like weirdly resistant to reading fiction.
Yeah.
Unless it's like...
You're the perfect person to ask this of, because I've been thinking, like, the novel is actually novel as a form, right? I don't believe for thousands and thousands of years, human history, we didn't have, like, because I'm thinking, like, we read these really large, several thousand-page novels, and, like, that wasn't a thing in human society just 500 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. There's also romances aren't that different from novels. So, like the King Arthur stories, for example, are older, and if you asked a random person, they'd definitely say yes. But
the length of it.
There's a definition conversation to be had, but definitely the different. I don't know. Part of me wonders if they're getting longer because to accomplish what a movie does, like takes more words in a book. Like I feel like I'm just thinking of this right now. Like I feel like that might be part of Brandon Sanderson's problem sometimes, is he's trying to have these like cinematic scenes within his book, and that's why they're so monstrously long.
Do you think it's possible that we just don't have the imagination to like fill in
dropped a keyword there?
Is it possible we just don't have the imagination that it people used to have? Either, I mean, I'm just thinking about it out loud, but like
focus.
I don't think it's the imagination. I think language.
I mean, also, can you get that kind of thing published? Is the other problem. Do our publishers think we have the imagination that can tolerate the kind of book Jacob's alluding to?
Well, that's the other thing. Like audiences don't have that language either, so they won't understand what you're trying to say.
I don't think this is true at all. Like Game of Thrones is very is very popular. Stephen King writes these huge novels which get published. Like, no,
that's not what I mean by the language.
What do you mean?
Like the literary tradition and the language of symbols within it.
Oh.
Kind of parallel to Peugeot, but not exactly.
So you think books were basically more encrypted earlier than they are now?
I think so. There's some that definitely have, those layers and stuff, but I'm not sure, for example, Game of Thrones does. I'm not sure Brandon Sanderson does.
I think older books, they traffic in density rather than length. I was just reading through an introduction to the Book of Judges, and just the amount of different things that are going on, that little piece of prose is incredible. And it's not through these elaborately drawn scenes. It's very, very sparse, very, very spare, like descriptions and narration. But the amount of like the potentials for meaning are just feels infinite.
And
that's a great example.
In a whole other way than is even possible in Greek or English.
When I was a teenager, I read a number of John Grisham novels, and I think those are probably better books than their reputation, but they are kind of written like movie screenplays where like every physical detail is spelled out, and it doesn't use a lot of symbolic language or double meanings or wordplay or things like that very often. I think that's a very common type of, well, at least in the 90s for sure, was a type of popular book. I think in some ways the symbolic literature, at least in the popular imagination, is probably more present in music actually than in popular novels in the second half of the 20th century and onwards. So like I've been listening to like for example Craig Finn, who's the whole steady lead singer, and there's a lot of like wordplay and symbology and different things in his music writing. So yeah.
I think it's
don't
film.
actually know music. I do think a lot of it moved to film.
I once met Craig Finn outside of his venue. I had come from working doing balloons to go see them play, and ran into him outside, and he saw the colors poking in a bag, and he's like, "What are those?" And as soon as he learned I made balloons, he didn't want to talk to me anymore.
Would anyone here ever consider writing a novel, or does that just sound like way too much work?
I've tried so many times. I fail every time. Although the closest I got was when I was having Grok help me. That helped a lot. Yeah.
If I had an idea, I'd write one. Maybe someday.
No. I think if I ever wrote something that's book length, it'd be a collection of short stories.
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, I've had this idea in my head where, like, if there was someone that did something maybe slightly outside of society's norms, how would I kind of explain that, like in a almost like a business school kind of language, like as an accountant? Like, what are the things that would make someone, I don't know, like one story I have in my mind is like a guy who has an apartment but like lives in a park basically all the time, for example. And it's something that like bobs around in my head sometimes, like when I'm going to sleep. But the limited writing I have done was all nonfiction. I should say creatively. Yeah. Do you journal, Emma, or is that something that
I don't?
I did a little bit when I was
That
like.
would probably be a good thing to get into, but
yeah, when I was like college age, it is kind of interesting to.
I am trying to keep up something I read.
Yeah. And it is fascinating to just open a journal, and even if it's something very banal, to like remember what exactly you were doing like 10 years ago on a date.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it does like take you back and like remind you of things that you've completely forgotten sometimes.
Well, and historians love it because it's where most of our actual day-to-day knowledge of like past eras comes from.
Yeah. Yeah, you talk about like literature, and I think of like, I don't know, if people ask like what are the great I don't know, movies or stage plays, and they oftentimes talk about the dramas. So like The Godfather or the works of Terrence Malick. But really, I don't know, day-to-day life is in some ways a lot more explicitly portrayed in things like Friends or The Office, or things that are kind of looked down upon a lot of the time.
Yeah, or like Jeeves and Wooster, like P.G. Wodehouse.
This is making me so nervous, Matt. Oh gosh, I don't think of myself as a clean freak, but man, I don't know. Oh,
It's wild.
God, yeah. I definitely would not put a piece of gum on that, or my hand anywhere near it. Did you put a piece of gum on it, Ethan, when you were there?
No, I'm not a degenerate. I don't chew gum.
Well, that's fair too. I mean, gum chewing. I do remember a lot more people chewing gum in like the '90s. It seems.
Probably all trying to break smoking habits.
Yeah, perhaps.
No, I like gum, but I don't.
Now people just
I don't
vape.
ever have it.
You.
I mean, I'll have mints sometimes. Like if I have mints, I'll like, yeah, I don't know, put one in right after another, the way people do with gum. But I don't. Yeah, I don't suck on mints all the time. Yeah.
You gotta dig out your.
Yeah. So, how is arc watching been? Have you continued to do that, Ethan? I had my eye out for more of the Substack posts about it. I was curious what you had to say, but I haven't seen any in a while. I know you've been pretty busy with a lot of things.
Well, I've been turning all of my Substacks into YouTube videos, which then it became, well, okay, now I have this idea that I wrote down. How do I capture that idea in a little video? Instead, it's like I'm not just, sometimes I'm reading, but I'm not just reading the Substack. I'm making an attempt at recapturing the idea a little bit. So it's taken way longer. So I haven't really written at all. I've just been doing YouTube stuff. I got maybe 7 more videos to make. Once those are made, then I'll return to all the different writing projects and get in a rhythm of write, edit, film, edit, write, edit, film, edit. So we're getting there.
Yeah. I know this is really compelling stuff, but thank you for posting them on Substack and YouTube too, by the way, because Substack's mobile is a lot more user-friendly than YouTube's. Yeah,
that's
Emma, what is Cullen graduating?
Oh my god. What?
When is Cullen graduating?
His commencement is today, actually. His online commencement. He has officially graduated.
Wow.
So, yeah, very exciting.
Nice.
He's applying for jobs now. He's hoping to work at the school where he's been doing his internship, which is our church school. Whoop! Okay, yes, that doesn't work. So we'll see.
How's the house been? Did you have to do any big projects with it, or?
We had mice. That was fun. We got someone to come and stop up all the holes we're getting in. And then our dishwasher broke. So we had nothing for a year, and then we had 2 things all at once. Pretty good.
Yeah. The thing with
There's
mice
some
is
stuff we could get to eventually, but
yeah. The thing with mice is the stuff to kill them is sometimes a lot worse than the problem of mice, depending on what your house is like and what they're doing exactly.
There's that too.
Yeah.
But we had one guy come, and they were like, your attic is totally wrecked, and we have to replace all your insulation and everything. And then we got a second opinion, and he was like, your insulation's fine. Just put bait and get rid of the mice. But you're never going to have 0 mice because you live down the street from a cornfield.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was taught a really horrible way to get rid of mice, which actually worked, but I don't think I would ever do again, which is you take any sort of bucket-like thing that's large enough to be a bucket but has straight sides, and you put water 5 inches deep on the bottom. It works
I've heard of
really
this
well.
one too.
And it's really, really horrendous.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, poor little mousies. Oh, you get
It worked, but I'll never do that again. Well, I don't know if I'll never do that again but it was more traumatic to me than I imagined it would be. Yeah.
It's a bad way to hold dominion over creation there. Bad stewardship.
Yeah, and like there were 3 of them in there, and they were very loud, and it was traumatic. Took a really long time.
Man, yeah.
Yeah.
I once upon a time I lived in the one habitable floor of like a 3-story dorm at this Christian school that I worked at. And there's one point where it started raining and one of the windows broke and a couple of squirrels got in, and I heard them just like running back and forth all up and down the hallway. And this is like 5 o'clock, so maintenance was leaving for the day. So I called them and I was like, "Hey guys, squirrel problem." And they're like, "Sorry, Matt, but that's a tomorrow problem." And so I'm like, I have to do everything I can to figure out how do I just keep them off my floor for 24 hours. And so I'm like scouring Reddit, just give me some sort of like remedy or anything. And the big thing they came up with for keeping squirrels out of your garden is like this like concoction of like cayenne and like chili pepper. And so I
that's
go
good to
run
know.
the
They
safe.
keep digging up my strawberries.
So I run the Safeway and I'm like mixing up and I bring it back and I'm basically like makeshift mortar and pestling this bright red concoction. Then I'm going up to the second floor, going to all of like the doorways, and I'm just like sprinkling this powder on the ground. And I'm like, I've never felt more like a witch than I do right now. Just leaving like a trail of powder to keep the evil demons away.
So did it work then?
Here's this ritual efficacy. They did not come downstairs. Whether all of my actions had anything to do with it or not, I have no idea. But they stayed upstairs and then they were or removed the next day.
That's something. Huh.
Okay, because I was expecting you to talk about, because I've heard horrible things about what happens with animals that get peppered. Yeah. It's hard to humanely murder things.
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to murder them. It was just like what I found was like a garden remedy where like it's so spicy they will stay away from your plants because it's just gross to them. I'm not like poisoning them, I don't think.
From what I have heard, they get it on their paws and end up scratching themselves horribly, type thing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And I seen that happen. I'd probably feel worse about what I did, but all right, it was an all or nothing situation for me at the time.
Huh. Do you have any good animal removal stories, Ethan? I feel like you probably do.
I mean, I grew up in Wisconsin hunting, so like we just used guns and we'd eat them and we'd skin them and then we'd use the fur. Like, I mean, when I had moved to Rockford, Illinois, I worked at a coffee shop with a couple like hardcore, I don't know, seemingly hardcore anarchists. And when they learned that I grew up hunting, they were like, "You can't work here, man. We're gonna like make your life miserable." And then when they learned that like I ate everything that I killed, they were like, "Oh, well, I mean, we're not vegetarian, so I guess we can't really like argue with that." I was like, "Yeah, I mean, like, hunting was kind of like a sacred thing growing up." As my father and I would like go far into the wild and like kill an animal and then bring it home, and we would eat that meal and be very like grateful for the meat that the Lord provided by the appearance of the animal and the return into the home. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, people can be very weird about hunting, but I mean, it's like, I don't know, the deer I've shot are definitely had better lives than whatever cow you ate if you went to McDonald's or another fast food place. I mean, so I don't.
Well, I don't know. See, this is the thing. Okay, so do you really think the cow would have chosen a life in the wild, or even the deer, a life in the wild, as opposed to a nice, cushy barn?
I mean, dogs somewhat weirdly are about the only animal that seems to actively choose domestication. I mean, that.
Then you get into the factory farming versus normal farming thing too. Like, no, I think they would choose a well cared for barn, but do I think that most of the like McDonald's hamburgers are coming from well cared for cows? Probably not.
Yeah,
I mean what do we choose for our environment? I feel like most of us choose like comfort, even if it requires us like living through a meat grinder. We go, we'll take the comfort. Like that outdoor place to go live, that's too uncomfortable for me to go.
Especially because of all the dangers. I mean, like, being a deer is actually pretty frightening.
Yeah.
Dude, these deers, when they're like crossing the road, dumbest animal alive. They look at this large empty space and they're like, oh no, there could be predators. And then they hear a car coming, they get startled and they just bolt. They just bolt right across the road.
Wait, they never pay attention to the road signs. What's wrong with them?
I have to say, fact check not true though, because if you've ever been anywhere where there's bison, they will go and they will just sit in the middle of the road and dare people to come hit them. Like people will come right up to them. Apparently, I didn't see this, but I'm not surprised by it at all. I guess at one point, some of my family who visited me in Yellowstone was saying that there was like this like kind of ambulance type vehicle that they had sent out basically to safely knock the bison out of the middle of the road. So, yeah, and I don't know. When I hear about bison almost going extinct, there's a part of me that's like, I don't know. They kind of deserved it almost. But yeah. They're not very smart animals. And well, the other thing is their fur too is darker than deer or other animals. So like if they're in the road at night, you can't see them until you're right on top of them. Yeah.
Bison are tasty.
Driving through Wisconsin, I saw so many dead deer by the side of the road. It was really surprising.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, bison are basically just like truck drivers. Like my dad drives a truck and like he'll often say like, what are you going to do? You're going to hit my truck? It's going to hurt your car more than it's going to hurt my truck. That's what a bison thinks. Like, fine, come hit me. See what happens to your car.
You know, actually the only animal that's ever like mildly challenged me when I was in a vehicle was a longhorn steer, because they're not in the national park, but in the national forest area, there was a herd of cattle that would just like graze on the land, and then they'd round them up like in the wintertime or something like that. And they were in front of my car, which was a Sunfire, and there's this bull there, and I wasn't thinking it was a dumb move, but I lightly touched my horn and it looked at me and it just rubbed its hoof. And I was like, oh crap, this thing probably weighs about as much as my Sunfire. So what am I going to do? I did shift it to reverse, but thankfully I didn't have to hit the gas. Yeah. Yeah, so don't honk at longhorn bulls if you ever encounter them in the road. Jacob looks like he has thoughts. He's like. To be fair, I just barely tapped my horn, and then I noticed, oh wait, that probably wasn't the right thing to do.
So the thing is, Los Angeles, you aren't aware of it until you really think about it. I live in a desert. I live like in a desert. So like seeing wild animals is a rare thing. I remember I was in high school and I was at a friend's house and we saw a deer at his house because it was in the hills. And it was like the weirdest thing. Like I didn't realize there were deer, or like wildlife exists. It's kind of rare around here, you know, as opposed to other places like Wisconsin, which was like, wow, things live here.
Yeah, no, it's kind of amazing the areas that have lots of animals and the ones that don't too, because they're not necessarily where you would think, because the suburb I live in now is actually relatively close to the city, but there's so many deer, and you also see beavers sometimes. I actually saw a fox once. And,
okay, you guys will never guess what has become a pest in areas of Los Angeles and Florida. Guesses?
Old men and golf carts.
I'm talking about an animal.
Alligator.
Boa constrictor.
It's a bird.
Wait,
I
Evan, what did you
assume
say?
not seagulls, because you said that you would not guess.
Peacocks.
It's a very large bird.
Is it
Ravens?
pelicans?
Vultures.
Peacocks.
Flamingos.
Peacocks.
Peacocks have become a huge pest, especially here in Los Angeles. Like if you go to Hollywood Cemetery, there are huge herds of peacocks, like infesting the entire place, and they are really, really loud. They're
awful.
Yeah.
Horrendous.
And they're really mean, and they're large, and so they can tip over people's garbage cans. So they have infinite food, right? And nobody wants to kill them, because how could you kill a peacock?
They're good eating, though.
Well,
according to like every medieval feast I've ever read about, they're good eating.
But I have a friend near his house. Like every time we go there, you have to drive through the peacocks because they just walk on the road wherever they want, right? And they're they have the shrill sound, and they're very loud. So like it's horrible.
I guess.
And their image is part of what, if they were ugly, it would be a lot easier to get rid of them.
I feel like I've never seen a peacock anywhere other than in a zoo. I mean,
LA is a zoo.
Well, this is what happened is people bought
we used
peacocks.
to go to, just didn't cage peacocks.
People bought peacocks for like their home, and they hated it, and like the peacocks went loose, and now there are roaming bands of wild peacocks in Los Angeles and in Florida.
It's amazing and awful. The neighbor that used to keep peacocks, and it's just the most god awful, like shrieking.
Well, 1 or 2 peacocks is one thing. When it's like 30 of them, they just don't stop screeching.
I mean, it's kind of like a fitting plague for the city. Like the city is full of humans who are like peacocking around. So it's like, yeah, we'll just fill the city with literal people. Like if I was writing a novel, I might
Symbolism happens.
Because it's a perfect literal metaphor.
It is. And the problem is, like in Los Angeles, of course you can't shoot them. Like anywhere else, people would just shoot the peacocks and eat them. But because they're beautiful, nobody wants to remove them. And what do you mean by remove them? So now people have been removing them, but they just end up breeding more and more. So like what, you're going to create all of these peacock sanctuaries, right? So it's like
just eat them.
tell that to Angelinos. Emma, come here to Los Angeles, do a campaign for eating peacocks and see what happens.
No. The trick is you don't ask permission. Just start playing Robin Hood and poaching the king's fowl. Just take them, eat them. Lighten your grocery bill a little bit.
We believe in you, Jacob.
Probably get some eggs too if you're proper.
You will go to jail so quickly.
This is why I'm not in California.
Well, first of all, you certainly can't use a gun to shoot them because you can't fire guns within city limits, right?
There's ways around that.
Wait. You think if I dress up with like my hair like this and like a peasant skirt and like a dirndl type top and like a peasant blouse and I walk around with my little slingshot and I slingshot the peacocks, you think that it'll count as enough of a performance that the Los Angeles will be on board with it?
Or just start a cult and peacock meat is your sacramental meal.
I would so pay to see that, Emma. You should get a National Endowment for the Arts grant for that performance.
She's going to become a peacock fighter.
Peacock huntress, please.
Emma, vanquisher of the peacock hordes.
Gosh. I feel like it would be the most boring thing I've paid money to see, probably. Yeah. Do you mind, Andrew, if I boot you? I don't know if we have people looking to join or not, but I'm cheap, so
how dare you?
Spots.
How dare you? Go for it.
He's gonna starve, Sam.
Yeah, you're gonna make me feel guilty. I know PVK gets like nervous. He always wants to back you off, but now we know why. But you're eating on the live streams. Oh, that's funny.
Oh yeah, it's not gonna let it go through. But here, I just did city peacock problems. Google article from 3 days ago. Florida has a peacock problem, and here's how they are dealing with it. I've heard of peacocks, but this is ridiculous.
There's got to be an epic like next door neighbor app thread about the peacock problem. There's got to be something like that somewhere.
Yeah, next door neighbor really is the internet mind virus.
Okay, this article is just too funny not to read. A small town outside of Miami called Pinecrest, Florida, is having a major issue with all the peacocks that are coming into the town. They're breeding like crazy and are looking for better real estate and greener scenes that they like. The birds, on the other hand, are not fans of the neighbors. The locals and reports are saying the peacocks scratched the roofs of stately homes, pecked the paint off cars, and defecated on driveways. Their piercing squawks are so annoying and wake them up before sunrise. Well, this is how they are dealing with the problem. The town of Pinecrest hired a veterinarian, Dr. Don J. Harris, who will be doing peacock vasectomies. He said, snip one male peacock and it will no longer be able to fertilize the eggs of the female. We're going to catch one peacock and probably stop 7 females from reproducing. It's going to have an exponential benefit. Pinecrest agreed to pay about $15,000 for veterinary equipment to perform the vasectomies. Vasectomies
To be
would
fair,
allow
it's just a TNR.
Like, yeah.
It's just a TNR program. Like, they already do that to all the cats everywhere.
Can we get San Antonio Sartori to call out a peacock-themed wrestler in order to give them a symbolic symbolic conflict that can then be like disseminated out to the masses? Yes, there he is.
We need a peacock killer.
Well, I think Eva's already got the Peacock Slayer character here, so maybe he could be the defender of the Peacocks. Or, I don't know, or they could team up.
I feel like Peacocks go against everything San Antonio stands for.
Yeah. Well, they have little brains, so he likes that because he doesn't like big brains. So.
But I feel like that's like self-induced because they're so vain and like East Coasty and New Englandy or something like that. Like overeducated, domesticated.
No, see, like that. Well, they're like, from that more Eastern thing where it's like if you have fancy stuff, you show everybody, and that's okay. The thing with the like East Coast elites is that they're always like wearing these like muddy boots and stuff, and they're driving these beat up old Volvos and like pretending like, oh, I live on the farm, which just so happens to be, worth like $8 million because it's one of the most expensive real estate markets in the world. But like that's how all the like especially like the old money rich people in New England, they're all they all have the family farm that was like
there's a Bo Burnham song about this,
a Revolutionary War. But yeah, so and I was related to some of those people, so I experienced it firsthand. But
Yeah, I mean, I think animals as pests is definitely a problem in a lot of the Great Lakes areas. Yeah, it's not peacocks, but I mean geese. Like if you go to a lot of parks, they poop all over everything and the cars and stuff like that. But geese are kind of mean, so I would recommend becoming a goose huntress. Yeah, they're actually pretty tough birds, really. Yeah.
We had in my, near where I live, there was this sort of like folk hero animal. There's a coyote that was caught on film a number of different times, and he had like his bottom jaw was like torn off, and so he just looked like the mangiest, gnarliest little dude you've ever seen, and he just kept like trucking along for the longest time.
Yeah, coyotes are actually kind of a problem, believe it or not, in Detroit, in the city itself. And I guess I've heard that this happens in Los Angeles, too, because they like abandoned buildings, apparently. I've seen them a few times, but thankfully they haven't harassed my dog or anyone's pets that I know of.
Yeah, we have coyotes all over Milwaukee. I mean, all throughout Wisconsin. But like, I used to work in flooring, and so it was like in a industrial zone, and you'd always see coyotes running around the abandoned buildings, the train tracks. It's always weird. Like, I just wouldn't have expected. But then when my dad and I would go out coyote hunting in like the cornfields, we could never find them. But they're always in the city, and it's kind of smart. It's a good strategy.
Yeah. So what inspired you to join in this live stream, in this really intellectually stimulating conversation here today, Michael? Any thoughts or ideas or
Oh, well, I mean, I was enjoying all the conversation. Then when you kicked Andrew out, I figured I should take advantage of that. So, you know, it's all been good stuff. I tried to jump in earlier when you guys were talking about like the novelty of novels and all that.
Yeah, you're the one person here who's actually wrote a fairly big book. I mean, how was that process? How long did it take you to get through it?
Well, it was like probably a year and a half or 2 years or so worth of writing, but it's way longer than it should be because it's really like unedited. And I mean, I thought it would be fun to kind of release it that way because it's very much like it's like the PBK rabbit trails, but in written form. Because that's really like that's how I best like process all this stuff. Because I pretty much will write almost every day something.
I have a physical copy, and it makes a great thing to kill roaches with.
A spider killer, yeah.
That's your mouse killer now that buckets are out.
Where can we get this physical copy? Do we have to know the author, or is it available somewhere?
It's on Amazon. It's just self-published on Amazon. So, yeah.
Believe it or not, I got this as a gift by someone other than Michael.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, you didn't think you sent this to me, did you?
Well, no, I didn't. But you know, I didn't. I wasn't sure if you would. You know, I assumed when you first.
If I would pay, excuse me, Michael, I'm Jewish here.
I don't know what that means, Jacob.
It was a joke about being cheap.
Yeah, for a second I thought you were saying you had something against his book. I was like, oh man.
No, it's a joke about being cheap.
Fair enough. Yes. I had a brother who we had these encyclopedias, and at some point, I mean, we got high-speed internet at our home, and we weren't using them at all. So he put them under a chair for support, and we would always make jokes about it, like knowledge will lift you in your pursuit of everything. Or I'm trying to think what another one was. A man who sits upon wisdom is a wise man indeed. Yeah, there are a few others, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know I'm not the only one that has stacks of unread books by my bed, hoping that the knowledge will just make its way in there through osmosis or whatever.
If I ever get a Neuralink, it will be in order to download books.
So give us the elevator pitch, so to speak. What is the book about? I know PVK's mentioned it a few times, but I don't think he's really talked about it or had you on.
Yeah, so it's like 7 books in one or whatever, basically, because everything. It started off kind of with like my kind of idea about trying to integrate like trade jobs into like a discipleship kind of process, you know, start sort of that the embodiment thing, like getting back into like using your physical body and stuff like that, you know, because even just thinking of like Jesus parables, you know, where he's talking about like farming and fishing and things like this. How much more did the people who did that stuff every day, they there was something about it they understood immediately, and we still talk about the words, but we have so much less knowledge about just those basic the other side of the metaphor, basically. Like we're all in on the spiritual side, but we've forgotten a lot of the physical side. So it kind of started with that, and then I was just trying to kind of flesh out the worldview into different areas. So it's basically like I mean, I talk about a whole bunch of different things in it. So a lot of it is kind of stuff that we've discussed in the corner. You know, some of the symbolism stuff, and you know, PVKs, agents and arenas, and the God number 1, God number 2, a little bit of that, and then I did a big section about like stories and myths, like how we kind of use you know, use those as sense making tools. And then so then I did a big thing about architecture, and like this is a lot of these were just like, I don't know about this, so I'm going to learn about it, and then I just wrote about it like as I was learning it. So I'm not like writing as an expert, but it's like my discovery. So so architecture, and then clothing, that was interesting. Like basically just looking at everything about like the role that clothing plays in the Bible. And then there's a few chapters on professional wrestling, which I've expanded on more lately. But yeah, so yeah, so that's it. And music too. There's a bit on music. So yeah. So I kind of try to relate the principles of the kind of way I was thinking to all those different areas.
So it's a big generalist text then.
Yeah.
What is the biggest thing that the average person doesn't understand about professional wrestling?
I think, like what the point of it is, I guess.
What is the point of it?
Well, I think it's really is a vehicle for storytelling. Like it is supposed to tell stories, so it's more like theater than it is like boxing or UFC match. Like, you know, the fight is an important part of the narrative structure. It's actually, I was thinking about this, it's really similar to like a lot of like medieval stories where they would have like jousts or duels as like, this is how we're going to settle our disagreement. So that's like the role that the actual like wrestling match plays in the story. And then there's usually a narrative arc to the match as well. Like first the good guy wins for a while, then he gets really beat up for a while, then he makes a comeback. And you know, you might add a couple more of those ups and downs or something like that. So but then, you know, everything that connects it is all about story. So it's all about like making alliances, and then there's like betrayals and stuff like that. And then like the pursuit of like the title is kind of meaningless in some ways if you think about it, but that makes it like a placeholder for like whatever you know, you like one comparison I made is like the role that the Holy Grail plays in a lot of these stories, because it's like barely ever does anyone actually get a hold of the Holy Grail and do anything with it, but because they're always in pursuit of it, it transforms their character, and it, you know, brings about other changes to what's going on in the world. And the other thing I compared it to was you know, in that movie Avatar, where they were looking for unobtainium, like, which is like kind of to put it in the foolish pursuit. So it's like if you're the hero, it's the Holy Grail, and if you're the villain, it's unobtainium.
Have you ever been to the kind of more amateur style compared to like WCW style professional wrestling that might be like in a high school or like at a venue that's owned by a family or something like that? Or is that something that's more or less extinct?
No, well, it's sort of there. It's started to like make a comeback. I think like because of like the whole like internet thing, because you know, it was like all the big TV shows basically put all those little mom and pop organizations out of business, And then once you kind of get the internet and the interest spreads, then like a huge like indie scene sprung up. So there is a lot of those things. I'm sure there's some around here. There's in San Antonio is actually kind of a big wrestling town. Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, he's from here, and he actually started a like a wrestling gym that is still in operation here. Somebody else. So I would like to go to some of those ones around here, but it's hard to justify doing things like that at my current stage of life with small children and stuff.
I've met a guy a couple months back who was an amateur wrestling wrestler at a Scott show in DC a couple months back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he trains at some gym in like McKinney, Texas, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's out there.
Yeah. It's very similar to like, because I was always in bands in high school and after high school, and it's very similar to like the indie music scene. Probably a lot of overlap and stuff too, but yeah, it's a
So
cool
you've
subculture.
been playing with kayfabe on YouTube, which comes out of your book. Are you thinking about playing with any of the other themes? Like 3 months, am I going to find you like on YouTube, but it's all going to be like a fashion channel, and it's just going to be clothing?
He was just playing with architecture a week ago.
Was I? What was that about? I don't remember.
New England's what's his face? It's hard to keep all of your different
Norm.
Norm.
Norm. Norm.
Yeah, Norm. Yeah, Norm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's more. So Norm. I don't know. Has anybody else actually seen the real version of this show? Because that's a real show. There's a guy, Norm Abram, who had this TV show. It was on PBS. It was called The New Yankee Workshop, and he came off of This Old House, which is like been going on for decades. It's like the original home renovation program, but the New Yankee Workshop was where he would like build furniture and stuff like that. And that was actually like I watched some when I was a kid, and then when I started doing like woodworking a little bit for my job, I like went and binged all the old episodes. So he really did like teach me a lot of stuff. But basically, I just copied the whole like shtick of that program.
PBS, the precursor to DIY YouTube.
Oh,
is that what TUC really is? Bringing our PBS roots back to YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
It's already the thing that replaced NPR. So.
What was incredible when I was watching your Norm video is I know for a fact I have never seen that show, but I knew exactly what you were referencing. So I still caught the references to a thing I had never seen.
Yeah, because it's funny because like I did copy like word for word because he does this whole shtick about like the safety glasses every single episode, and it's like his thing. So. And I was actually like, I gotta watch one of these videos so I can get it right. And then I opened up the YouTube video, and somebody had already typed the whole spiel in a comment, and so I was like, oh great! So I just copied that, and then I had the script to run off. So yeah. But he always wore these glasses. They're like those just look like regular glasses. They don't look like safety glasses. They're just like thin wire frame, like aviators from the 80s. So
that was exactly what I thought when I saw you put your safety glasses on. Like, don't count.
Well, I mean, it's funny because like I used to wear contact lenses sometimes, and then when I started doing this stuff all the time, I'm like, I'm just gonna wear glasses because I will not remember to put real safety glasses on. But if I just wear regular glasses, it will at least, take care of all the sawdust and stuff like that. And I'm not really too worried about what I do. I'm not worried about much worse than that anyway. So, yeah.
Emma, do you teach history or English? You said something about teaching a class. Are you a teacher or?
Oh, I am a graduate, so I'm almost done with coursework, and so I teach a mythology class where we teach the Iliad as part of the class, or I did. I'm not doing it anymore. Yeah.
Nice.
So I teach a lot of literature and languages.
Is your PhD in literature, Emma? Or?
Philology is what it's called. So classical languages.
So interesting. Wasn't there some discussion of that on your channel recently? Then I seem to remember that word being thrown around a little bit.
Well, I was talking to somebody on Discord that's told me they're a philologist. And so, yeah, in one of my game show episodes, a question came from this philologist. So that's where you heard the word philology, which I find to be a fascinating word and a fascinating train of thought or specialty.
We don't call ourselves philologists anymore most of the time in academia, and I think that's a shame.
What functionally does philology now? What do y'all call yourselves?
We call ourselves classicists.
Okay. Something completely different from linguists.
Not completely different, but somewhat different. Linguists tend to focus on like unifying theories behind languages and like the evolution of languages and stuff like that, and they do INC type work, whereas classicists or classical philologists learn the languages really well and read the literature and study the cultures.
Do you have any tips for people learning new languages?
I mean, the standard one remains good, which is do a little bit every day. Find something that you care about enough to be, whether that's like a book you want to read or like you got to find your reason for doing it. Otherwise, you'll just give up.
Sam, one of my favorite things is I don't know what you're doing on the side, but you like turn and you get like a big smile on your face and you like type away, but then I don't see you enter into the comments.
Told us this once.
I might be looking something up. I don't. No. I know I sometimes don't mute myself when I'm like typing, and sometimes I listen back to my videos. I'm like, oh man, I can hear all my typing and noise there. But I don't know. Mark Lefebvre is trying to start a flame war here, I think, or something. He's welcome to come on, but
he's welcome to come on to a room that's full.
But we're full right now, so someone else has to get off. But yeah. Well, he's welcome for at least a little while, right? I don't know.
I'll let Mark.
I don't know if he really wants to get on or not. It's kind of a joke.
I got one more job I got to go to, so I should probably hop off. So
okay, I'll put it in the new link if anyone wants to join in. I know Clara said she was interested in it. So
I think
good
she
to
said
talk
she has
with
a
you all.
Good to talk to you.
Thanks for hanging out.
Good seeing you here, Michael. Thanks for getting on, Jacob. Yeah, no, I know when I started this, I was actually kind of worried that I wouldn't get enough people because sometimes it seems like streams start and they just kind of go dead. But the opposite has been true today. There's been a waiting list, it seems. So For people trying to get on.
I have one more paper to write before I'm done with my semester, and I'm avoiding it. So.
Yeah. So, what is like the end date of the semester?
What is the what?
What is like the end date of the semester? When do you have to finish it by?
Technically, the paper is due Tuesday. Functionally, for me, everything needs to be done by like Sunday the 18th, because then we're driving up to Michigan because my youngest two siblings are graduating high school, and we're going to be hanging out with my parents for a couple weeks. Because CJ hasn't seen that much of his grandparents yet.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm sure. Sunday it will be an exciting day for you. So, yeah. Are you going to see family?
Yeah, we got to drop off the cat in Ohio. Early to
Why Ohio?
where she because that's where my mother-in-law is, because my mom is allergic to cats, and my mother-in-law raised this cat from a bottle-fed kitten. So we just drop her off with my mother-in-law whenever we're going to be out of town for a while.
That just sounds funny that you're dropping the cat off in another state. I love it.
I know.
The cat even gonna know it's in Ohio?
She will, because there will be other cats there, and she'll be mad about it, but she'll survive. But
sounds
she
like
lived there for 10 years, and then she's lived with us since then.
That's awesome. It sounds like everything's going well, Emma. That's so exciting. But we don't get to see you anymore.
It's been very busy. But I know. I haven't been on Father Eric streams because I've just been busy. They're also exactly a bed. So
yeah, I don't understand how you've been busy buying a new house and having a baby. I don't like. What do you mean busy? I don't understand.
I know, it's crazy.
What is with this baby? It's perfect. Like, what is going on over here? This is nuts. I've never seen a baby
very
this well
chill. He's gonna run out of chill eventually, but he did take his nap, so we've got more time.
Yeah, he's definitely he's like the awesomeness of Emma and the awesomeness of Colin combined into a small package. It's great.
Yeah. What's been on your mind, Mark?
On my mind?
Yeah.
Oh, so many things. So many things.
What do you stream on Friday afternoons? I feel like I've never actually watched it, even though I know you do.
7 p.m. Eastern time. So I will be streaming in, what is that? 4 hours and change. Assuming I don't die first. I've been sick for about a week, so my stomach is really unhappy with my existence. But assuming all goes like I thought last Friday I was going to be able to stream, and I did 4 hours, so it's fine. So hopefully everything will go well.
Yeah.
No,
who are the regular characters on your stream? Does Father Eric come on? Are there like crossovers?
No, Father Eric has never come on my stream. Castle comes on. Occasionally Sally Joe pops in. Who else comes on? Sometimes Jesse pops on. I get a bunch of random people, and we used to get different people. It all depends on who's around and whether or not they're interested in that particular Friday topic.
So. What's the topic tonight?
What are the topics you usually talk about?
Well, I mean, it can range, but I usually do a monologue and then I let people in. So tonight is intimacy, meaning, and relation. And like last week was the myth of World War II. Actually, Emma, if you haven't heard that, you might, because that's just been in the zeitgeist. So I jumped all over that because Peugeot already opened the door, and I'm like, I know they talk about the myth of World War II, but they don't know how deep that is. Like that's a big problem. It's a much bigger problem than people realize. But I figured I'd go after intimacy, meaning, and relation. I'm kind of doing the more roll-up topics now, where I'm talking about a lot of sort of deep, big, widespread issues that, because I have the background, I can just point at videos on the channel and soon the Substack. I was going to write today, but my stomach is beating me up. I can't focus long enough to sit and write an article.
Do you have any? Sorry. No, it's just okay. Oh man, compelling stuff.
This is how the Ethernet protocol works, guys. You just talk, and if there's a conflict, you both back off for a random period of time, and then one starts talking. You just had multiple frame conflicts. It's fine.
Go first, Ethan.
I would say, Mark, you've been on YouTube a long time, yeah? I mean, because I've like scrolled videos and like it was long. I'm like, okay, Mark's been at this for, is it years, 5 years, 10 years?
No, but about a little over 2. Maybe we're counting up on year 3. I don't know. I can't. It might be my third year.
I feel like it probably is.
Yeah, there's some old stuff where the gems are. Like my first few videos are like, it's weird. They're completely like everything's in there. And it was funny too, because probably 4 years ago, before the part of the impetus for starting the channel was I sent I think it was a DM to Vanderclay, and I sent, it's the outline of, I think it's the first 4 model videos. I sent the outline to him in like 1 sentence, and he was like, yes, with 3 exclamation points. I was like, aha. I was like, okay, then, I've got something. And then it took me a while to figure out how to do the slides. So they're ugly, the lighting's bad, the sound's kind of right. But that's the core principle stuff. And then later on, I introduced the earlier work, which you'll be really interested in, Ethan, which is the model, the knowledge model stuff. And that's the stuff we did on the Vervaeke Discord server a million years ago as the result of, pondering over Vervaeke's work. And then this live stream is going to be pretty unique because, partly because I'm sick and partly because I'm like, oh, well, we're here, right? We're at that level now. I grabbed a bunch of notes because we have a notes file that was, north of 300 pages that we've been drawing off of for years, right? We have tons of publicly available material. And we have other material that's not so publicly available, but so I drew off these notes files to talk about meaning and intimacy in particular.
Sounds like it's time to publish a book, man.
My book comes out at the end of the month.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks.
What is the title?
It's Navigating Wisdom Communities. I think that's the title. I have to ask my editor. I don't do these things. I have an editor. That's why it's a book. But if you don't have an editor, it's not a book. Just that might be relevant to the earlier conversation. I don't know.
So I'll ask a question that I asked Ethan at one point. If you were to explain to someone who isn't very online, maybe like a older family member, what you're doing on these live streams on your channel, and like maybe say like 2 to 5 sentences, how would you explain it to them?
Ooh, which one? I'm doing a lot of things on my channel. I'm doing different things on my live stream. There's a lot going on, Sam.
You're precise. Be precise.
Yeah, be precise would be a good summary, actually, right? Like most of my recorded videos are about the difference between how words are defined and how they're used, and where that needs to be, we'll say, regulated, right? So, for example, and a lot of words are just, say, being used in a magical fashion. Words are not magic in and of themselves, but also there's a component, right? So, for example, I recently posted my video on progressivism on Twitter because it came up, and that's an older video, but the word progress is, it's basically being used in magic spell, right? And so my Don't Be Fooled videos are talking about that. I want to do more of those. It's just, I've got a file with probably 200 video ideas, and I never get back to the ones I want. And like today, I was like, I'm gonna record videos all day, and I'm still sick, so that didn't happen, right? So it's always this balance, you know, between all the stuff I need to talk about and whatever my time, energy, and attention, you know, can afford, basically, right?
What is a word that has a very different meaning in common language versus a technical definition, or maybe even an inconsistent meaning?
Modern is a good one. I mean, people are throwing around, you know, the modern age, the modern era, postmodern, right? That's gobbledygook nonsense. And you will, because you're a human, project into that whatever you want. And that's one of the reasons why when you ask people, like, when you say modern, what are you talking about? And they blah, 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 right? And they can't identify it, we'll say, in time. Sometimes they'll throw in like, well, this happened and that happened and this happened. And it's like, but I know why all those things happen. so calling them moderns a little disappointing from an explanatory viewpoint.
Is metamodern a useful or good framing in your mind?
Terrible. I get into a big fight with Jordan Hall about that, which is too bad because, like, I'm just like, man, Jordan Hall's like 3 hours from me. I should just drive up there and we should chat. And he was arrogant about it, and I hate arrogance. I hate it. I was just like, because he's like at the end, because to be fair, he watched some of my videos, and I was like, hey man, thanks for the engage. All I ask is people engage. Like, if you don't like it, whatever, that's fine. But like, a lot of these people will criticize me without ever looking at any of my work. They won't even look at my tweets, you know, and or like my videos on Vanderclay's channel. They won't even look at those. I'm like, well, look, you shouldn't talk about people if you're not willing to engage with any of their public stuff. But he did. But then he said, I see where you're confused. And I was like, no, dude, you're the one that's confused, not me.
Is that a
deal
public
with my
conversation?
case, you know?
Did you guys record that and release that conversation? Or was that a private conversation?
Oh,
that sounds interesting. It's Twitter interaction, you're saying?
Yeah, it was a Twitter thing. Yeah, I offered to have a talk with Jordan Hall, and he was, well, I'm tied up for the next several months, sort of thing. And I was like, I mean, that, you know, that's fine. And maybe, you know, maybe in several months he'll have a conversation with me. But even Manuel was like, nah, bro, you're just wrong. And if Manuel goes after you, you're in a lot of trouble. Manuel's really smart, and he will just show you. He has no compunction whatsoever to save you from your terrible ideas. You think I'm bad? You should see Manuel when he gets on the trail. Yeah. So you know, I would love to have a conversation with him. There are some strings I could pull. I know people that know him better and stuff like that. But like, really, like some of my, we'll say, subversive aspect of my little experiment here is to prove to people that they say they care about ideas. They say they care about equality, but they won't engage with good ideas. And then the question for them would be, why is that? Right? Because the fact that it's true is unimportant. I already know this, right? I'm well aware of how this all works. They're not, right? But they think they can do that. But like, really, Peterson and I should have a conversation. And I've had enough interaction with Peterson on Twitter that he should reach out to me. And to be fair, he did reach out about one of the videos I did with Paul. Not to me. And why that is, I don't know. There might be a good reason. There might be a bad reason. Who knows? I wasn't part of that interaction. And that conversation ultimately did not happen, which was a bit of a disappointment to me, obviously. But, you know, these people think things work the way they clearly, it does not work. Like, you do not look at the field of ideas and pick in a marketplace which one is good or whatever. The whole idea of the battle of ideas in the marketplace is an illusion. And it's not completely without merit. It just, the world doesn't work that way. It never has.
Do you have a
do you go to any of the IRL like events? Are you, because I know Jordan Hall is one of the keynotes for Southeast U area in Asheville in October. They haven't published a lot of info on that, but Nate, who's near me, has been talking that up quite a bit.
I haven't heard about that one yet. Yeah, I went to almost all of them. I didn't go to Chino with good reason. I went to Thunder Bay. I went to the little one in DC. I went to Symbolic World, and I went to the one in Arkansas where I met Emma and her husband pre-baby. Lovely people, right? And my friend Bruce Wilkie, he's been on Vanderclay's a couple times. He comes on my streams.
Is he cigar guy?
Yeah, cigar guy.
Yeah. I don't know him, but I love cigar guy.
Yeah, well, Ethan, take the afternoon off, fly out to Maryland on a Thursday. He does these great in-person events with whiskey and cigars. So I've been to one of those, and then he was nice enough to let me stay at his house, which was, to be honest, slightly inconvenient for me for two reasons. I was on my way up to New England, visiting family and friends, and he's only halfway, and I like to do 3/4 of the journey the first day, but it was lovely. Like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I get to hang out with him, right? And I've been to visit RJ in DC, and Father Eric was there too, so that was convenient. So yeah, I mean, I've been to a ton of events.
Cool.
If someone wanted to start getting into navigating patterns, do you have a specific video that you would point them to?
I pointed Jordan Hall to the models playlist. I point everybody to the models playlist because I think if you want something to engage with that I think is helpful for you, more along the lines of a Homath, although my differences with Homath, I actually really like his stuff, but he's so lost. It's just, he's so close, but he's so lost, right? At the same, they all are. They're all blowing up, right? Carl Benjamin's fighting.
Who do you endorse? More or less. Say, who do you endorse?
None of them. They're all flat world materialists.
Right.
Oh, I mean, old Peterson's useful. Like, Homath is very useful for certain things, right? But like, again, they all have these tiny little worldviews that are all blowing up, kind of left, right, and center. And so you're left with the unfortunate job, and this is the product of individualism, right, and rebellion against hierarchy. You have to pick and choose what's good, because early Peterson's excellent. Even early Vervaeke, although I would argue Vervaeke's strength is in his meditation series. And you look at that and you say, gee, Mark, that's really self-serving of you, since that's you're in that, and he's praising you, which he was, which is rather flattering at the time, right? But like we built a whole community that's been continuing this whole time based on Vervaeke's meditation series, and I think meditation series is the solution to the meaning crisis, roughly speaking, for some number of people, not a very large number of people. I have reasons why, right? But awakening from the meaning crisis should be called awakening to the meaning crisis, because it doesn't posit a solution. It just makes you aware of a problem. And I very much agree that there is a problem called the meaning crisis. I just think it's caused by the intimacy crisis, which is my terminology around how all this, we'll say, started. And that's wrapped up in the model, which is why I was saying to Ethan, no, the knowledge engine video is probably what you want to see the most. I mean, obviously watch all the model videos. They're all great, but that one in particular, I mean, that's our core work.
What do you think accounts for, you said that like both early Vervaeke and Peterson are good, but they've kind of gone sour. What do you think accounts for, I guess, the errors in their thinking, or their...
The flat world materialism is the errors.
Okay.
And the reason why they're good, because this keeps coming up, although I was twittering with Annie Crawford. I actually like Annie. She's pretty interesting. Everyone's like, what happened to Peterson? And I'm like, Peterson and Vervaeke are teachers. When they're teaching and there's a camera, they do well. This should be a surprise to no one. When they're not doing that, they don't do so well. Yeah, they're out of their field of competence.
Do you think we've exaggerated the utility of AI because we've given up on deep meaning?
That's a good question.
That's a really good question, Sam. I guess I wouldn't. I'm of two minds. So first of all, I've got like 3 AIs that I use all the time. they're really useful. I think that AI is extremely useful if you know what it can do and what it does well. I would say the meaning crisis is the reason why people are overemphasizing, we'll say, the incorrect utility of AI, which I think is what you're pointing out. Like, AI is not a brain. It cannot be a brain. Nassim Taleb had a great tweet, I think it was last month or maybe a month and a half ago, where he basically said, AI is a statistical machine, guys. And it is. Like, I mean, and it's frustrating for me. I got 35 years of computer experience. Okay. I have the book, right? Write the neural net from scratch. I've read the whole book, guys. I've actually written the code and run it. Okay. This stuff does not have the capacity to do what they're talking about. Period. Full stop. I've been working with it for far longer than 95% of the people that are in AI now. Right. And I was an early adopter of AI and or neural net technology, I should say, because the AI gets fuzzy, right? And the problem that people are running into is that they're seeing something that looks like it can speak. And because we are cooperative creatures, in other words, opponent processing is wrong, just flat out wrong. Sorry, John. But it is. Because we're cooperative creatures, we look to make a relationship. Some of this is going to get covered in my live stream, by the way, so you get a free preview. We look for a relationship to co-manifest meaning. And so we see meaning in the AI. And then we're like, aha, it must be alive because it can create meaning. And we're the only creatures that can create meaning. And it's sort of like, well, I see how you got there. Also, you're a little retarded, but fair enough, because most people are. Like, because we can't tell. I mean, to my earlier point, you can't tell a good conversation from a bad conversation. And that's what people are realizing with, say, the Douglas Murray, Dave Smith, Joe Rogan dust up, right? Or the fight between Lindsay and Carl Benjamin, who ostensibly are on the same side. They're both libertarian, liberal leftists. And it's just Carl Benjamin's sort of a little further along the curve and James Lindsay's stuck. And now they're fighting because James Lindsay can't not fight because he's stuck and angry because look, if you're dividing the world in half and then suddenly the bad thing about one side is also on the other side, you really don't have any choice. Your system of dividing the world in half is wrong. Sorry. Just your original framework has to be incorrect. There's no other alternative. And see, anybody talking about that?
You mean people are fighting about dumb things online? And miscategorizing other people?
They're not dumb things. I mean, ultimately, Sam, though, it's actually
That's
wrapped
fair.
up in the meaning crisis. I mean, I understand the joke, right? But it's actually important that we'll say the moderate leftists, because it's a moderate, like most people are moderates, they always were, right? The moderate leftists understand that leftism only leads one way, and that way is down. And I'm sorry to break it to you, but also you can't have more clear example than the moderate left fighting with each other. I mean, Douglas Murray going, well, experts are important, and here's my expertise. And then Joe Rogan has to point out to him that you're not an expert in that field. Why are you even talking about it? You have an English degree, bro. Right? And it's so like Douglas Murray doesn't see you're the problem. You're the one claiming expertise where you don't have it. These other people aren't necessarily claiming expertise. And some of them are correct about a bunch of things, right? Not that. And the problem is you can't support Daryl Cooper. I mean, the guy's insane. He also not only is not an expert, but doesn't make a good case. Like the case that he wants to make against Churchill could be made if he were a better historian, but he sucks. I'm sorry. It just is what, at least with history about that. Well, and it's the myth of World War II problem, right? Like nobody understands World War II at all because the idea of World War II is the myth. There was no World War II. It's the second act of the Great War because you have to go all the way back.
It's a thought I've had in the back of my head. It's not directly related to any of those things, but I've had this concept in my mind, the professorship of all believers. And, because like you look at someone like Tim Keller, and what is his source of authority? It's not really ecclesiastical in the sense that like he's not wearing vestments. I mean, he is part of a church hierarchy, but for 95% of people who follow him, that's probably not especially relevant. He's putting
Right.
himself forward as the professor, and the idea that, well, and he was a professor and a pretty good one at that, from what I could tell. But at the same time, I think we all feel like the need to impress everyone with how much knowledge we have. And yeah, but the more you know about any field, the less you know in so many ways.
Well, the less you know about
That's a good
every
phrase. You
other
should tweet
thing.
it so you get the credit you deserve.
Yeah.
Professorship of all the levers. I like it.
And that's the problem, is where does authority come from? How do people become leaders? Right? And because of the myth of World War II specifically, we are not willing to understand the pieces required to answer those questions. And because of the individualism, and sort of, Sam, what you described for me is, I call it the age of gnosis, right? Where knowledge is the highest value and all knowledge is conveyed by propositions and propositions alone. And that was an insight I got from John Vervaeke. You used the term propositional tyranny. And I was like, that's so close to right. There's something right about it, right? It's, we're all living in the age of gnosis, which goes back further than the Great War and causes the Great War, would be my argument. And I have a bunch of history videos with my good friend from Ireland, Adam, who knows far more about the relevant history than I do. So that's another good playlist to sort of understand, we'll say, the larger framework. But a lot of my work is operating for different audiences at different time scales and for different purposes. And that, because the world is hierarchical, and the success of the United States was in having a fluid enough hierarchy and also I want to say a hidden enough hierarchy that people could move and get where they belonged in the hierarchy very quickly. And because we started fresh, for all intents and purposes, we're the only sort of nation that started the way we did. It worked. But when Europe tries to copy that, and they have been for a very long time, the EU is a fine example, it all goes horribly wrong, because A, they don't understand it, right? And B, even if they did it, what we did can't work for them. And then we're trying to copy Europe because we want our history back, effectively. This place is brand spanking new, the United States. Like, what the hell is even this, right? And so, but we don't see Europe clearly, and so we're copying all the wrong things from Europe. So we're each copying an image of each other, and we each think the other one is leading the way. And it's really, in one sense, it's tragic to watch when you think of it at that scale. But in the other sense, this is the French Revolution is just, they're copying the American Revolution. It just went horribly wrong for them because they didn't understand what they were copying or even what we had done. Because I don't think we understand what we did to fix the problem of the beheading of the King of England, which is really what these are about. I actually go over that in the history series.
Do you see examples of functional groups in the world that do not have scapegoats?
Oh man, you're going to get me in trouble about Girard. Okay. Girard is a real problem. And the failure of AI. I just quick aside, because we brought up AI earlier. I wanted to mention this. I tried to get AI to notice a problem that I had noticed with Girard's work, and it couldn't. So, which is too bad, because earlier I did get it to notice contradictions, because I really wanted to get AI to notice contradictions so that we could pick, is this conversation on Joe Rogan worth my time, or is it full of contradictions? Like, there are little measurements I have that I use. I thought maybe I could get AI to do them for me, but it doesn't look like it can do all of them. Maybe that project would be worth doing. If anybody has a few $1 million, let me know. I'll do it. But Girard is a positivist, right? Everything, there's no evil in his world. There's no negative. Every scapegoat is innocent. And so he starts the conversation, if you pay attention to his framing. So if you don't want to engage with, we'll say, the obvious fact of the axiomatic statement that all French philosophers are minimally a major problem that the universe has been plagued with, or that all the lit crit people that become philosophers are certainly not good actors. Pretty much all of them, which is a little coincidental unless it just isn't. We can just certainly engage with Girard starts the conversation at the beginning of Civilization is a collective murder. And it's like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I don't know what history you're using, bro. And then he proceeds that way. I think the problem is, Sam, that when, and I'd love to have this conversation with Jonathan Peugeot at some point, when you think about the scapegoat and the fact that the scapegoat might not be guilty of all of the things, then it gets interesting, because the question is, do you or should you sacrifice somebody and blame them for things they're not to blame for in order to alleviate the guilt of the guilty party based on something like a hierarchical structure where the guilty party maybe does more good despite their guilt? And that gets scary fast, right? Because like now we're all the way into, well, can the prince of a certain country engage in really reprehensible behavior, or a priest, or whatever, and can somebody else do the atonement on their behalf? And right, because it gets worse. I mean, and can it be not voluntary? And it's like, man, those are boy, I wish we had a book that was written like a couple thousand years ago that could help us with that. But I suspect even if we did, no one would read it. And even if they read it, they wouldn't understand it. And even if we read it and understood it, we wouldn't do anything in it anyway. But yeah.
Well, I mean, oppositional definition, I mean, that seems to be plainly true. I mean, you see it even like in these silly internet spaces, right? I mean, like the Peterson Sphere versus the TLC, right? And
but it's not a versus, Sam. Like this is what's weird to me, right? How do you know who the good guys are? Okay. And I hate to do
maybe
this,
a better example is the corner versus Christian YouTube. Maybe that's a better one.
Right. But again, the problem is this is resolvable with hierarchy. It takes 2 seconds. Who's more inclusive? The Peterson Sphere is more inclusive, right? Christian YouTube is more inclusive. They don't like the label because they don't want to be associated with anything on the right, according to their wackadoo definition of right. But like, that's why everyone was pissed off, and we'll say not just those little cults, but like everybody was pissed off when Peterson went to Daily Wire. And I'm like, I really kind of like some of Ben Shapiro's, especially his early work. But he's not on the right. And you know this because the Orthodox Jewish people are pissed at Ben Shapiro, pissed at what he does online. And they've actually called him out several times publicly before Daily Wire for his speeches and said, you cannot be an Orthodox Jew and say stuff like this. That's right, because the real problem is the civil war that everyone's talking about and all this, that's left versus left. Those are people who were on the left yesterday and decided they don't like the extreme left, fighting against the extreme left. And so when Tim Pool says it's a civil war, of course it is. I watched Tim Pool's journey from I'm an anarchist to, oh, wait, that doesn't work.
Well,
I don't believe any of that stuff because it can't work.
Yeah, so I wish I had Michael Satori still in here, because I mean, there's a part of it that's like, why is this more sophisticated than professional wrestling? And I mean, I think it is in a way, but at the same time, I don't know. I see some of the same patterns.
That depends. Well, but the patterns are fractal and they're everywhere. But that depends on what you mean by professional wrestling. If you mean the ridiculous Grim Grizz idea of LARPing, when somebody says LARPing, they're just showing their ignorance. Like, if you think professional wrestling is a LARP, then what you're saying is, I don't participate in this, so I don't understand any of it. But I'm gonna hold my authority over it and call you lesser. because I don't understand it. But you didn't participate in it because nobody who I mean, look, I grew up with the WWF. Like, it was a big deal. Everybody knew what was going on. Nobody said, this is real wrestling the way we do it in high school wrestling class. Nobody thought that. 0 people. We all knew it was entertainment. It's not that hard.
Well, on a scale, it's less of a LARP than what they're doing like at Renaissance festivals, right? I mean, because that's kind of the whole point of the Darren, however you say his last name, the movie, The Wrestler, right? That there are real physical stakes in it, and there's a real physical performance, even if the performance is not competitive necessarily in the way like the NBA or the NFL is.
But Sam, that's just the confusion that was caused elsewhere over what is real. And this confusion is wrapped up in the idea that you can determine reality by physicality. And it just turns out that doesn't work, right? Because reality is by definition relational. And yeah, I'm gonna go over this tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on my channel, Navigating Patterns, right? Like that's the difference. The difference is the relation. So again, if you go to WWF matches or you watch WWF on TV, you are not confused about how real it is and how real it isn't. We'll say from a perspective of the non-material and the perspective of the material. Like I can draw that line in 4 seconds.
Did you ever think of wrestling as not real?
Of course it's
like as
real.
a kid.
It's a real form of entertainment.
So that comes from actually one of Ethan's questions on his chat show was about that. I don't know if it was with Henry or if it was with Jane, but it was one of them. I think he had gotten into that discussion about it. So yeah, but no, it's Jane. That's right, because she was talking about wrestling her friends, and it's like, yeah, of course it's real. I mean, what do you mean by real? It's not a good, it's on TV, right?
But that's just the confusion of where you end and other things begin, right? Like, oh, you can't tell the gradients and the difference between things in your head and things in the world. That's all.
Yeah. So,
Mark, are you familiar with the wrestling meme "Still real to us"? Damn it!
Am I familiar with what?
The wrestling meme "Still real to us."
No, I don't engage with memes. Memes are fundamentally evil. So
Boomer,
I'm not a big meme fan.
Yeah, because the conversation around it's not a confusion. The confusion is a playful one. It's a pretend. It's a make believe. To call it confusion is to miss out on the playfulness of.
No, it's. I don't think it's a confusion. I think the meme is expressing something very real, which is saying it's real to us, and if you don't know that, you're an idiot. And I would agree with that sentiment. Yeah, if you don't know that wrestling is real, you're retarded, and you need to figure out how to know what's real and what's not, because it's not that hard, you know. But you're busy talking about it and thinking about it instead of engaging in the real world. And you're just like seriously, Sally says, grow a bean. I would say, go bale some hay or cut down some trees. You'll figure out what's real and what's not real soon. It's not that difficult.
Well, you talk about characters.
Is that tinfoil on your head, Ethan?
What? Ethan's a mood. Ethan's a complete mood.
Is that tinfoil on your head, Ethan?
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. He looks.
You haven't been here long enough, then. In the corner, that is.
Well, you talk about authenticity, though, and the idea of a character, right? And they are embracing a role, but I mean, that in a sense, that's not different than, I mean, when I have someone that I'm doing a tax consulting with, right? I'm embracing a role of an accountant, but no one would say, oh, that's not a real role. But at the same time, there are parts of myself that I'm holding back and things that, well, I wouldn't tell my clients. I mean, by definition about my personal life, or even if they say something and I have a thought, professionality means not discussing that at the point, right?
Right. And what did we destroy in the world, Sam? We destroyed the idea of a profession. And how did we do it? We did it through fashion, because quote, successful people, although I would argue with their definition of success, like Steve Jobs, decided to wear a turtleneck to seem like an individual, like an everyman, like you and I. And then, later on, you've got Zuckerberg wearing a hoodie. Like, I'm just a gamer, coder bro, like the rest of you, yo. And it was a lie, right? It was fundamentally a lie. I mean, I don't like the great man thing, but that's the closest analogy I think everybody would recognize. They're not normal people. First of all, Steve Jobs is a jerk. He was a jerk. No, Steve Jobs is the only big tech guy that I know of. Maybe Gates too, but I don't think it's true of Gates. But Steve Jobs for sure. I've never heard anybody who worked with or for Steve Jobs say one positive thing about working with Steve Jobs ever. But he's the only one, the only person that I specifically recall. It could be true of Bill Gates too, because Bill Gates is a freaking piece of work, let me tell you. But like these people are not like you and I, right? And like, people do Elon Musk is really smart and that's why he has all the money. And I'm like, yeah, but he slept under his desk. Are you willing to do that? And everybody goes, no. And I said, then you could be 10 times smarter than him, but you're not going to make it. And then a few people say, well, I'm willing to do it if I can make that kind of money. And I'm like, all right, well, when you were a teenager, did your father give you $750,000 to split with your brother and try and fail at a bunch of businesses? And they're like, well, no, that didn't happen. I'm like, too late. You didn't meet the conditions to be like Elon Musk. Assuming you are that smart, which I very much doubt. Most of these people are just people who've been told they're smart and really aren't smart.
You're basically always wearing a t-shirt on your live streams, right? Not that you're, well, you tell me, do you think you're putting yourself forward as an expert or not?
I will claim expertise in technology and computing. That's for sure. I'll claim expertise in John Vervaeke's work. That's for sure. I don't generally tend to claim expertise. I don't usually wear t-shirts on my streams because I'm prepared. I dress up a little bit. I wear Hawaiian shirts on all my pirate live streams on purpose, which is kind of fun because I have a bunch of them from Hawaii.
So basically, you're auditioning to be a mega church pastor, is what you're telling us.
Well, that would be the Christian interpretation. That would be the PBK interpretation. But no, not at all. But you'd have to differ. You'd have to be able to, unlike my good friend Pastor Paul, who I've met many times in person. You'd have to be able to differentiate between Billy Graham and Jordan Peterson. And Paul used to talk all the time about how Peterson and Billy Graham are the same phenomena, roughly speaking.
What is the difference between them in your mind? I mean, I think there's lots of differences, but that's an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, well, I think there's a difference between preaching and teaching, roughly, if you want to divide it that way. We'd have a hard time disambiguating teaching from not teaching, we'll say. But I think there's a fundamental difference between preaching and teaching, and that fundamental difference is whether or not you're talking about ethical issues. Secularists do not actually have any language anywhere in their ability to talk about morals and ethics. It's non-existent. They don't do it because they can't, and they can't do it because they don't basically fundamentally see a need. They're not kind of in that business. And they try, right? They'll try to reinvent words. So you try to reinvent the soul by reducing it to the mind and then calling it consciousness. And that's only been noticed recently, right? I noticed it years and years ago. But consciousness is just their like boring, lame map for soul, right? Because they need knowledge because of the age of gnosis. They need knowledge to be at the top of the hierarchy. Why? Because they're smart, or at least they think they're smart. I'll take on all of them at once. I'll destroy them because I know the trick, but they don't know the trick. But I know the trick, right? So they
Facts and logic smackdown.
they want that to be the thing because they're good at it, and that would put them at the top of the power hierarchy because they're all fundamentally postmodernists. I mean, Peterson can say like, I don't think postmodernism is good, but he's so trapped in that it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think you actually answered the question pretty well already. But I was going to ask, do you think our society could use more preaching? Actually,
I think the problem if
preaching requires authority, right?
Well, I think it's worse, Sam. I think it's much worse. And this goes back to my knowledge engine video, right? Like there's a fundamental lack of people's ability to engage in the equivalent of preaching. And that's why Peterson's popular to some extent. And I think that because we don't understand that piece, we're nowhere near fixing it and preaching won't work. I don't know. This is like, I'm way out of my wheelhouse because I'm as secular as you can be. I was not brought up in a religious thing at all, right? But I was steeped in sort of the Catholic framework because my family's all Catholic.
I was going to say, you weren't catechized, right? Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, it's possible. Part of the problem, Sam, is I was homeless when I was like 17, 18. I don't remember a lot before that because it's just a lot of trauma. So I don't know if I'm baptized. I have no idea. Yeah, but you know, when you're stuck in a world that's flat the way the secularists are, and somebody starts preaching, what you're going to have eventually is a collapse of the effectiveness of preaching or apologetics or, any sort of church engagement like evangelization. And I think that happened, right? Again, this is not my area of expertise, but it seems like people are talking as though that happened. It seems to have happened, right? From what I can tell. And that is the result of something much deeper. And so better evangelization, which we'll say is the PVK tactic. I've called it sneaky evangelization, although they're being less sneaky about it now, which I appreciate, is not an answer because it won't work. Because those guys look at Peterson and go, well, if you just upgraded his language, and it's like, no. If you use that language, what you're going to get is one of two things. You're either going to get blank stares or you're going to get people agreeing with you who have a different conception of what you're saying, like John Vervaeke and Jordan Peterson, because they'll talk about, listen closely to when they talk about emanation. I've heard both of them do this. Oh yeah, emanation, that's super important. And then they segue right into emergence every time.
Well, I think very few people consciously think about what someone has to do for a message to be effective.
Exactly.
And I mean, you talk about evangelicals, and even though there's a lot of downsides to the megagelical movement, if you will, there is a lot of thinking about how do you get someone to hear what you're saying that goes on there.
If you can, and if you get out of the myth of World War II. The problem that Peterson and Vervaeke and those guys have is that they think charisma is evil because there are dictators who they see as having been charismatic and that having ruined something or caused something. Now, to be fair to them, I can't prove it, but my thesis is that they are not a no on communism at all. They are a no on charismatic dictators, but communism actually true communism hasn't been tried. If but for the charismatic dictator, we could have had our utopia. I actually think that might be it. Although I'm willing to say, no, they're not that dumb. And say they just don't like the fact that happened as a result of the dictatorship. But it's not clear to me. Well, let's take the dictators out of it and go back to Europe, which was having a battle over leftism or extreme leftism, because that's what that's all World War I was right? How leftist do you want to go? And say, let's just replace those characters with other leaders. I don't see a difference in outcome.
I mean, hierarchies are hard, right? I mean, we clearly need them on some level, but we all have a very resistant and very mixed emotions to them and way of being. So, but I'm going to wrap it up here. But before I do, does anyone have anything they want to plug? A Substack, a children's birthday party, maybe? Or a live stream tonight? I don't know.
I'll plug my Substack and Navigating Patterns as a channel and my live stream tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, which isn't too far from now. So yeah, please engage in all three.
All right, sounds great.
If you're in Seattle, come throw a couple bucks in my tip jar.
Okay, you're at Pike's Place?
Yes, sir.
All right, excellent. Where should you eat if you're at Pike's Place? If you go there?
It kind of depends. Typically, I'll go to Mies on Pastries is sort of my go-to for eating on the run. Or the Asian grocery store down the street is pretty good too.
Nice. If I'm in Seattle at one day, what should I see besides our local clown?
I don't know, man. I just work here. It depends on what you want. Well, that's a longer conversation.
Where would you take someone?
Where would I take someone?
Yeah.
I'd go to Fremont.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. One spot to hang out. Food's good. You buy the canal. It's great. You get to go see the troll. Troll's awesome.
I love how Matt is really living the corner ethic, so to speak. He's out there, he's touching grass or touching pavement, and he's engaging us with the things that he's doing. So I think that's great. I love it. All right. Anything you wanted to say, Ethan? I'll give you the last word here, so to speak, before I get off.
I'm an idiot. Don't listen to me.
All right. You heard the guy.